And welcome to Talking Real Estate to your Champions Real Estate team at Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Ambassador Real Estate Company. My name is Mark Wehner II, team leader at Champions Real Estate team. So every Wednesday we jump on over the lunch hour, try to give you a quick rundown of what's going on in the market over the last week. Joining me as always is Russ Williams with Williams Mortgage. And so I'll be kind of touching base on what's going on with the interest rates. We're seeing a little bit of fluctuation in the rates over this last week or so. So just want to keep everyone informed. So we'll jump right into kind of the numbers. So as it pops up on your guys' screen as it shares here. So new listings, we had 274 new listings go live this last week, 256 contracts written or homes that went under contract, and 363 sold homes. So what does that mean to you as a home buyer, home seller, or just the average or the common person that just wants to know what's going on with their house? So we did see about 100 more contracts go, or houses go under contract. Last week we had about 150. We had just about the same amount of new listings. So what's that telling me? Obviously, the buyers are out there ready to rock and roll, put pen to paper. So as those listings are coming on, they're going off the market really quick. So it does benefit the sellers to basically take a little bit of time to get that house ready to rock and roll to capitalize on that buyer pool that is out there. So as we're seeing the market, get more active. I mean, we're still obviously in January. We're seeing a little bit of more warmer weather this next week or two. So I think that those numbers will probably be going up as well, just with the number of contracts written, because typically in winter, when you get a nice weather stretch, people jump on it because you never know when the weather's going to turn, obviously, here in Nebraska. So 30,000 foot view of the market. So Omaha and Lincoln MLS, there are 1,275 active listings for you to take a look at. That is removing the no-show listings, the ones that are getting their houses ready. They're on the MLS, but not active, so you can't see them on any third-party sites or anything like that. A little closer to home, Douglas, Sarpy County, Omaha metro area, we had 633 active listings. And the big picture of it, breaking that down a little further, we had 231 existing homes, so it's basically not the new constructions. So that's obviously not very many to take a look at or to choose from. That's all price points. So new construction, 420. So we were kind of hovering right around that 430 mark for a long time. And I'm thinking that basically right now, a lot of people after the holidays are looking at that new construction because there's not a whole lot of existing homes. So we're starting to see that number tick down. Builders are trying to get some of those homes in the ground. I talked to a builder since last week, that they're not even doing any more customs because they're so full. Kind of not really a backlog, but if they take any more, it's going to be pushing that timeline out, which, they can't guarantee the prices out that far, with the supply chain. Still some issues with that going forward on the new construction side of it. So obviously great time to buy and sell. Average months of inventory, about 1.5. The average sold price, still about that 292. It's up 17% from this time last year. So we're seeing, house prices increase. Going forward, the next couple of months, I'm seeing, kind of seeing a similar thing, just a simple supply and demand, simple economic side of it. So still a great time to get out there and buy and sell. But like we touched on every week, you got to have a game plan to get out there and, just be throwing things to the wind to get those contracts accepted. So, but we'll touch base here with Russ and kind of see what's going on in the marketplace and the interest rate. So how are we doing today, Russ? You're still on mute a little bit, so got to unclock mute.
There we go. Yeah, we're doing great, Mark. Mortgage rates, you mentioned it, have gone up. If you were quoted an interest rate last week, it's significantly different this week compared to last week. And we expect that probably will continue at least for a while here. And there's a number of reasons for that. Interest rates have risen really as a direct result of what the Federal Reserve Bank has done. They did release their Fed minutes from their December 15th meeting. There were some surprises regarding how the Fed discussed reducing their balance sheet of bonds, which are what drives mortgage rates. They discussed hiking short-term rates faster, and the market estimate is now expecting a 75% chance of the first short-term rate hike beginning in March. We already knew that the Fed would be tapering mortgage bonds at twice the pace previously discussed, but their projected rate of tapering suggests they'll be done buying maybe as early as March and setting up the first short-term rate hike on their March 15th meeting. What was previously unclear, however, was how the Fed was going to handle their $8.8 trillion balance sheet of bonds, whether it be treasuries, mortgage bonds, et cetera. Treasuries actually, mortgage bonds and treasuries make up $8.3 trillion of that. But in the minutes, almost all the Fed participants, Mark, said that they want to reduce their balance sheet shortly after the first rate hike. So we expect that they'll be dumping additional bonds on the market. And this, of course, once they release the minutes, this was a surprise to the market. And that's why we're seeing significant deterioration in mortgage rates. It's important to note, and we've talked about this before, Mark, but every 1% change in interest rates affects borrowing power by roughly 10%. So given that just in the last week alone, we've seen about a 0.5% rate hike in the long-term bond mortgage rates, that is roughly a 5% reduction in borrowing power. So it makes sense to talk with your lender if you're pre-approved, just to get a kind of a resetting of what your expectations should be. And in the event that you're not pre-approved, just as Mark had mentioned, put a game plan together. We'd love to help you and get into a house before rates climb higher and home prices climb higher as well.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that is, it's basic. If you're thinking about buying a house in the spring, now is the time to get a game plan together. And if you can rock and roll before the rates, as we're looking at are starting to go up, it could save you, 5% on a $200,000 house is 10 grand. So if you're approved for, you were approved at, a 3% interest rate at up to 200,000. Well, now you are approved up to 190, and that $10,000 in that price point, obviously it's relative as it goes up or down, is a huge difference when you're competing against multiple offers. For that seller that's looking at those offers, if you're only, offering 190 on a $200,000 house or whatever, you're not going to stand too much of a chance. So it's one of those that increase your buying power, to jump on it as fast as you can, and make sure you're making a smart move. And that's what we're here to give you all that information. You can sit down, digest it, figure out what's best for you and your family or whoever, if you're even doing real estate investments, get in there while the money's cheap, to lock up those low interest rates and increase that cash flow, as it goes forward. So, but yeah, I think, like you said, we've all we've been talking about this for a couple weeks now, just what the feds have been doing, on the mortgage interest rate side of it. So it is something that, is coming to fruition. But obviously, we can't predict the future and all that kind of good stuff. But what all things are indicating is, that spring market, it's going to drive buyers, I think, a different way, and some of those sellers that, yeah, you're going to be able to capitalize on a lot of equity in your house, but your purchasing power going forward too is also going to be decreased. So if you're thinking, I'm going to wait till the spring market when it is getting, usually the busier time of the year to buy a house and sell a house, maybe now's the time to get in there, get your get your assets so you can move forward and buy that next house, going forward. So, but I don't know if you have anything else to add. I don't know if there's, kind of keep it short and sweet today.
I think that's it for this week. Again, it's still a great time to buy real estate. In fact, I think it's a better time to buy real estate than it is even to invest in long-term traditional investments, mainly because when the Fed has acted historically, looking back as far as 40 to 50 years, we've seen the stock market has softened a little bit when the Fed starts to raise rates. And so we'll be watching very closely to see how that plays out. But we, again, based upon laws of supply and demand that we've talked about for months and months, Mark, we have tremendous demand for real estate with inventory and supply being low. That typically points to a strong housing market, and it's still a great time to buy.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things you can get for $25,000, you can get a $100,000 asset. Typically, and if you're having 25% down, and that asset can, pay you back, couple hundred, depending on what your cash flow and all that. There's many different variables in that thing, but you're able to get a pretty large asset and build that up over time. And obviously, if prices, go up 2 to 3, 4%, obviously we've seen them go a lot higher in the recent years, but obviously things go up and down, as any market does, just like you just talked on it. We've had a great run in the stock market, but what is this all going to indicate? And all we can do is look back at history and, try to educate ourselves in that process of it. So, but I appreciate everyone watching us, whether you're watching us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook. Feel free to comment on any of those. If you have any questions, give me a holler, 402-672-7670, or give Russ a holler if you want to kind of get kind of what's going on in the mortgage industry or your options, 290-8936. And appreciate everyone checking us out. And as always, if we can help you, give us a holler here. Mark Wehner II, Champions Real Estate Team, Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, and then Russ Williams with Williams Mortgage. So thanks, guys. Appreciate it. And we will talk to you next week. Actually, I will be gone next week, so maybe we'll have to skip a video for the week. So, but